Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
so we're gonna start now. I see some conversations there regarding the possible impact of the forthcoming growing hurricane. So, what can I say? Good luck, everyone. Let's hope. Let's hope for the best. Um, let's um, let's start directly with the webinar if you all agree. I would like to proceed as follows. First, I would like to provide some brief remarks considering this is the last webinar of this, the last session or module of this training in combos. Second, I would like to go about 3 questions that we have received and open them and answer them openly. And meanwhile, please feel free to add any additional questions you would like to. You can either tell us to unmute you so that you have the voice, the mic, or you can type here the question and I will read it and I will go about it. Last time we had a very good dynamic where many of you started to actually answer each other, so please feel free to intervene as you were pertinent. So first, again, good afternoon. This is our last module on combos. Because of that, I would like to make a very brief recount on where we are standing and where we are going. So this is the second training we are doing, combos. We did the first training in pub risk. Some of you did participate in that one, many of you did not. So pub risk is done. We had 90 people, more or less, who finalized that training. 56 of them were the advanced mode and 36 on the general knowledge mode. So that is a very good starting point. We are now in the second training, combos. This is the last session. We have 200 people participating. Let's see how many of you, hopefully all of you, will make it till the end and you will get your diplomas. As you are all aware of, the idea of these trainings is to have our increased capacities, be it from the government side, be it from UNDP or the UN side, be it from the donor community, be it from academia. We would like to have more people capable of applying these tools to advance the 2030 agenda. After this training is finished, in October, we will be starting with microfiscal simulation, which of course for the Caribbean is also of major importance. That will go till the end of the year. So starting in October, microfiscal simulation. If any of you are interested, bear that in mind. And if you are not, you know, people who would be interested into this, please let them know. We will be, as always, sending an email with the opening of the training. And then beginning next year, we will have qualitative methodology analysis, and we will reopen some of the trainings that we've done this year. So that for all of us to know where we are standing. One practical note as well is that, as I said, until now we have been focusing on government counterparts, on our own staff in UNDP and in the UN agencies, the broader UN system, academia, some consultants, and some donors and some financial institutions. In the coming webinars, we are going to incorporate a new dimension. It was already there, but we are going to put a deeper focus into that. Local authorities. If we are really to break the horizontal and vertical silos, for that we will need to increase the capacities of our local authorities. So we will be making a special effort there. This being said, and I hope this is clear, we are again in the last module of combos. I know some of you may be lagging a little bit behind, and because we really believe in our motto of no one left behind, I think Ivan can confirm that we will keep everything open a few more days so that you can finalize it. Please, I know, I'm sure you have many things, and I'm sure this is challenging to dedicate the required time, etc. But please make a final effort. Let's have as many of you as possible finalize the webinar. So keep that in mind. Now I'm gonna start with the 3 questions I have here. I'm gonna read them, then go through them. Meanwhile, please, if this brings new ideas to you, feel free to either ask for the mic or type your questions there. So let me start with the first question, which I think is really pertinent. It comes from Melissa Andrade Costa. What should be the limit of the scope of the combos? It could be good to have few examples of the breadth of the combos and the different options which I believe may have been adopted by various governments in the region. So there is the first one. I think it's a great question, and I'm going to go into that. Second question. My question is how we go about linking the RIA and the combo strategy and tools. This comes from Roberta Alport. The RIA is explicitly about accounting for gaps in strategic planning, while the combos methodology is explicitly about moving away from this thinking. As such, how do practitioners take into account the results of the RIA when completing the combo strategy, or is it simply a matter of closing gaps by writing missing SDGs into strategic plan documents and using the combo strategies to develop programs and projects? Ivan is adding there about the time frame for the responses. Let me go through the third, which is not a question but a comment from our colleague Patrick Chesney. And after that, I'm going to start with the first question. So Patrick is sharing a beautiful idea, I guess. The question of youth unemployment and graduation of youth to a life of crime hit at the pillars of country's future and attainment of the SDGs. The combo tools and approach strategy provide an excellent means to properly define the problem, identify the solutions using a participatory intersectoral approach, implement the solutions, and monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the solutions. So I guess the comment from Patrick here is how pertinent the combos can be to the realities we are trying to face. And then he quotes, in the words of a revered Guyana national poet, Martin Carter, all are involved and all are consumed. So this goes to something that I will be trying to, two things that I will be trying to make as much emphasis as possible. One is monitoring and evaluation. Beginning from the first day we are starting to work with combos. I mean, this has to be a top priority from the departing point. And two, the participatory approach, right? In building the theory of change and throughout the project or the programs we implement. So let me go to the first question. What should be the limit of the scope of the combos? It would be good to have a few examples of the breadth of the combos and the different options which I believe may have been adopted by various governments in the region. So combos, I hope you are all there listening. Please feel free to interrupt, make more questions, ask for the mic. Here I go about combos. Two ideas that we have repeated several times, but I'd like to make sure that we are clear about that. Combos can be implemented in different contexts, in different situations, with a different scope. And this is very important to understand. So in the Caribbean, we have already had 3 countries undertake MAPS missions. And I'm not gonna explain MAPS missions this time. I am assuming that you are all familiar with MAPS missions. If anyone is not, please write it down and then we will stop there, but I'm gonna assume that we are all familiar with MAPS missions. So we have had MAPS missions in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Tobago, in Aruba. That's in the Caribbean. So when we do these MAPS missions, we use the combo methodology to identify the accelerators. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna bring the second question here in 1 minute. Let me say something here. I'm gonna bring the second question. So we use the combo methodology to identify accelerators, and actually the combos become the backbone of the structure of the roadmap that we build after a MAPS mission. In this sense, I mean, with this approach, and consider that when we are doing a MAPS mission, we are looking at Vision 2030 or the different 2030 plans or long-term plans that governments have in our region. And in that sense, we are looking at a very, the big picture, right? At a very broad scope. This tends to be a little bit generic. I mean, if we look at the accelerators and at the visions and at the priorities at the country level from a long-term planning document, and we try to accelerate that, that tends to be quite broad. And it's okay because it will help us organize and orientate our roadmap, etc. But still, in that case, it's quite broad. There is a different approach of combos, which is when we are looking at priorities that can be at different levels, but usually linked to the territories, right? I mean, if we are thinking, and let me here share a few examples, if we are thinking on children malnutrition, or if we are thinking on teenage pregnancy, or if we are thinking on extreme poverty, any of these examples, I could give a few more, but let's focus on these three. Any of these examples, of course, we can have a broader look and we can have a nationwide look, but the truth is that children malnutrition, and here again I'm linking to data, we're going to see that certain regions or sub-regions or localities or municipalities are being more affected than others. Extreme poverty, likewise. I mean, this very few times is a problem that affects the entire country, every neighborhood, every locality, every municipality. More often than not, some of these problems tend to be focalized, tend to be limited to certain areas. And of course, there is a spread, but there is a major focus in certain areas. So, what I'm trying to say here is that combos can be applied at different levels. I want to continue this line of thought, but I want to introduce here the second question, which is regarding the RIA and the combos, right? The RIA is explicitly about gaps, whereas the combos is not. The view of the combos is different. How do the two of them come together? So, the RIA, let's remember, and I would like to all of us to have this clear, because RIA was the first module in this training. The RIA is very important, it's very relevant, it will tell us the story on how the country we are analyzing is aligned or not aligned towards the 2030 agenda. Most importantly, the RIA is a way to initiate the discussion. I mean, let's say we do the RIA and we see that a given country is 65% aligned if we consider total alignment, and if we include partial alignment, then it's 85%. It's very good news. I mean, it's great, but that's not why we are doing the RIA. We are doing the RIA to see to what extent planning documents are leaving aside certain targets, SDGs, and dimensions, mainly dimensions, because that's going to help us initiate the discussion with the central authorities, and if we are doing the RIA at the local level, with local authorities. Again, it's a trigger. It's a way to see which things are being left out or forgotten. Let's say that a given government has gender as its top priority, at least in the discourse, and then we do the RIA, and we see that there is actually no explicit projects, program mentions whatsoever in their planning documents to attain gender parity. Well, that's a very important trigger of a discussion, right? RIAs will definitely inform the combos when we do the combos at the MAPS level. So we are doing a MAPS mission. Before the MAPS mission, almost always we will have done a RIA beforehand, and that RIA will inform the entire mission and therefore the process of the combos for the acceleration. You know, I'm talking to a computer, so I don't really know the reactions of people. I really hope someone is there on the other line and you're following and this makes sense and it's useful. I'm hoping that this is the case, at least that someone is listening. I'm gonna keep going through this line of thought. So this was to bring the second question, right? RIA and combos. Now going to the combos. There are Okay, thank you, Doreen. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Monia. Okay, I keep going here. I'm gonna say something that is a little bit sensitive. Um, I'm gonna say it anyways because I think it's important that we have it clear. Yet, it doesn't mean we are right. There are different thoughts here, and some people believe that one direction is gonna be more useful than the other. So here I go. When we do the combos within the maps missions, they are definitely very useful, because they, again, they work as a backbone for the roadmap, so they help organize a little bit the next steps, the moving forward, right? If I were to give an example here, we had a discussion last week, because we were in Panama the week before, we had a discussion with the ambassador of Jamaica, and he was calling ambassador here to the UN, and he was calling us with the roadmap of the coming from the Maps mission, the roadmap to advance 2030 agenda that was approved by the cabinet in Jamaica. And he was telling us, this is very good, we think it's really useful, that's why the cabinet approved it. Now here, the chapter on financing, and this is just an example. Chapter of financing, how do we go about it? I mean, how do we go into the concrete of these recommendations? And then there is a whole line of work that follows the roadmap, as it is obvious, right? So very useful, yet usually because there's not so much time to prepare the combos beforehand, etc. If you see the step 2, the building of the theory of change, within the context of a maps mission tends to be quite weak. Why? Because you don't have enough time to go through data, to have, here as Patrick was saying, a really participatory approach, and it's quite participatory, right? But there is still quite space to improve there. You don't usually go to the integrity of the agenda, so I will develop that a little bit, but what I'm trying to say here, the message I'm trying to convey is, usually combos undertaken during the maps mission are very relevant, but they have a lot of room for improvement, or they can continue, the work can continue after, or should continue after the maps mission is finalized. So that's one idea. Second idea, when we are doing maps missions, when we are applying combos outside of maps missions, we see that they tend to be much more territorial, much more concrete, much more landed. So a few examples that I mentioned before. The government of Honduras calls us and tells us, children malnutrition in the Región Lempa, it's really an issue we have. And we would like to see how to go about it. We have a program, we have been trying to move it, to advance on it. We are not quite sure on how well we are doing, so we would like your support to assess the impact and to help us reorientate whenever needed and move forward. So that's one. We also had the government of Bolivia in El Alto, extreme poverty, similar case. I'm not going to go into the details there, but similar case. We had Argentina with teenage pregnancy. We have Paraguay with another major program that they need to reorganize a little bit. So usually we are seeing Central America and citizen security, which might also prove useful for the Caribbean. So usually these problems, and if I talk about children malnutrition in Región Lempa, or extreme poverty in El Alto, or teenage pregnancy in Argentina, believe me, I think it's not going to come as a surprise to anyone. This is not something that started yesterday. This is not something that suddenly we have realized. These are usually, and we are applying the combo methodology and tool to challenges that did not start yesterday, and it can be applied to challenges, who knows, I mean, unfortunately I'm thinking that more likely than not, after Irma hits, we will be seeing some combos. And I'm saying unfortunately, not because I don't think the combos will be used. I mean, I know they will be really useful, but because the event is quite unfortunate. But what I'm trying to say here is, yes, you can use combos for new things, and the approach is completely innovative, but most of the cases we are seeing that combos, governments are perceiving them as an opportunity to do differently problems that they have not managed to solve yet, and that they are really intrinsic problems to the country. So why is this? Why is this the case? And at this point, we are at the end of the training, so I'm assuming that this should come as obvious, but I would like to convey this message. Um, Step 2, building the theory of change. This is really crucial. And building the theory of change with proper use of data. And when I say we, I mean all of us. I mean international community, I mean governments, I mean governments in the Caribbean, I mean some of our partners. We partners, we tend not to be really risk-informed, evidence-based when either dealing with public policy or formulating programs or projects. We, more often than not, unfortunately, tend to rely on our beliefs. We have a challenge and we seem to know the solution beforehand. We know that we have to do this. Well, actually, that's part of the problem. I mean, that's our prejudgment, and a part of it is certainly true because that's why we have our experience, we are practitioners, we have the knowledge. But a part of it really requires to take data seriously and to challenge some of our beliefs and some of our prejudgments. So, step 2, use of data for the building of theory of change, really crucial. Second point in the step 2, participatory approach. I think I said this last time and I said it several times, but I still need to say it. We tend not to be participatory enough. We tend to, again, rely in the beliefs of the experts, etc. If Irma, now we are talking about Irma, hurricane, I'm quite sure that if we were to ask people from the communities, they have an idea, because this is not the first hurricane coming, of what are the problems they usually have, where it hits, where are the floodings, where are the landslides, which are the houses that are more precarious. And of course you need technicians that can do a microzonal risk assessment. Of course you need to hopefully have working preparedness and be ready before that comes. But having participatory approach for the building of the theory of change that will complement and challenge data and experts is crucial. It's really crucial. This is the second. And the third, it was analyzing the integrity of the agenda, which could be to know whether the 3 dimensions, social, economic, and environmental, are balanced, and if not, whether there are other programs that are compensating that, and to know whether the institutional side of it is enabling the rest or not. Let me read a question here before I go to the next idea I wanted to share. It was along these lines. I mean, this is a continuous idea, but let me read this. Doreen is saying, so I think what you're trying to say is that our group needs to act like a combos group. New York plays a role, but the trained group on the ground needs to complement that approach. We need to focus on participatory and data and communication in our home turf, while you guys provide the analytical oomph and momentum. So, yes and not. Yes and not. Let's not confuse this. Combos can happen. I mean, you can be applying combos without any support from New York at all. And in this case, our role, if we are not supporting anything, our role would have been to share this knowledge and this experience, and as needed, to accompany the efforts. But let's say that, again, Honduras wants to work in children malnutrition. We can participate or not. Let's figure out. Now, let's assume that there is a person in Honduras or a team that is very strong in data analytics. They can go and do the analytics of the data. Now, what is important is that decision makers include this team in the process, and they understand the relevance of this data and of being challenged. It is important that someone facilitates the entire process of the combos. Whoever is facilitating and is building the theory of change has to incorporate, again, this data analytics, has to consider the participatory approach, and so make sure that the communities have a voice, local authorities have a voice, central government has a voice, and then go through the integrity of the agenda. This will enable the rest. This will enable the rest. In some cases, if there is not capacities in the country or the teams or whatever, we can supplement with some of these capacities. We can either facilitate the participatory approach, we can go and facilitate the dialogues, or we can go and analyze the data, or whatever. I mean, there is always the support from New York if needed, when needed, however it's needed. But our final aim is not that we are supporting the process. Our final aim is that countries are doing it, and hopefully they are supporting other countries, and we can maybe work as a bridge for that. Okay, thank you, Doreen. I'm glad this was clear because I wanted to make sure that I was explaining this properly. So in some cases, like, well, I don't want to go there because I was going to mix up. I'm not going to add another thing now here of what we are doing together with Doreen. Let me go back to this idea I was having. So let me put a concrete example. Sometimes with a concrete example is easier. And since we have Irma arriving, and since I had to work for 3 years in Haiti after the earthquake, let's put that example, the example of crises like this and what happens afterwards, and why a combos approach is crucial to this. If you are working in an area that is affected by a hurricane or by an earthquake, more likely than not, I mean, at the beginning you will have emergency relief, etc. But emergency relief is going to focus on saving lives. You will have to have early recovery from the point of departure in parallel with emergency response. And you will have to start to think and sequence and see what has to go sequenced and see what has to go in parallel, so coordinate and plan. So let me bring you the example of Haiti. In the case of Haiti, we had, I mean, that was massive, right? So let's take one of the neighborhoods of Haiti. We had a scope that was manageable, so it was neighborhood by neighborhood. You take a neighborhood, and the amount of challenges that you have there, they go from economic dimension, and it can be small producers, it can be suppliers, it can be small stores, I mean, you name it. It can be employees, it can, yeah. So economic, you have social, you have governance including what is the voice of the communities again, right, in this process. What is the voice of the local authorities? What is the voice of the central authorities? How is this being coordinated? I mean, you have some interventions. How do they take into account the priorities of the local authorities trying to move forward and the implementation that the central government is doing through different ministry lines? The physical dimension of it, I mean, there is a part that will need pathways, roads, evacuation roads or whatever, retaining walls, drainage. You see, right? I mean, of course, participatory urban planning, repairs of houses when needed, or reconstruction, or so. How do you go about it? I mean, how do you build a response that's comprehensive? How do you break this logic of, let's say you go and you just do housing, and so you repair the houses, but you have not considered that there are certain areas of that neighborhood that are too prone to risk, and actually if you do a microzonal risk assessment, you realize that those areas are red and you should not be building there, and people should not be living there. So most likely, before you go into housing, you would like to do a microzonal risk assessment. How do you go about economic inclusion? I mean, if you're going to start building in the neighborhoods, if you're going to start doing roads and pathways and retaining walls and stairs and drainage, repair houses, this is economic opportunities. How are you going to make sure that people from the community can be hired there? How are you going to make sure that warehouses can be suppliers of the materials that will be needed there? How can you make sure, you see what I'm trying to say here? If you are going to, let's say, do some public works in terms of retaining walls, in terms of drainage, in terms of probably repairing some bridges, how do you know which of those are a priority? How is the community's voice raised there? How is the community's voice linked again to local and central government's priorities? So all this process requires data and data analysis. It requires dialogue, and it requires building a theory of change and a planning that will allow some things to work in parallel, some things to be sequenced, and to know what has to come first and what has to come after. So when you do build this theory of change this way, you will have two things. One, you will have identified certain indicators that come from your analysis and that have been validated, that are key to follow for the success of the impact that you want to have. and that's going to be the dashboard in substantive terms, in terms of how you advance about the challenge you are trying to face. Now, that is very, very relevant. One thing that, and we have to do that, but one thing that we sometimes don't pay enough attention to is the less, let me picture it as less beautiful side of it, the less, if we leave aside the world of the ideas and we go to the very practical world, then let's say you need to build a road, and you need to build a pathway, and you need to build a retaining wall, and you need to have done before all that microzonal risk assessment. All those are hiring processes, which means you have to have developed a Gantt chart or some kind of planning and terms of reference and bidding and hire companies and another company to make quality assurance. So that is, if I'm to super simplify it, that's pure logistics. And more often than not, we don't do this properly. And so the project gets delayed and the project has problems. And then we start to repair houses that we should not have repaired because we haven't done the microzonal risk assessment. And we start to do a road that was not a priority because the community has not been involved, or we start to do a road that actually the local authority was going to do it, but because we are just discussing with the Ministry of Public Works and they don't talk to each other because there is this vertical silos, we are actually duplicating efforts. So all this to say that taking very seriously the theory of change, which is, to be honest, it's quite common sense, only that we need to dedicate to it the time that it requires, right? And it will save us a lot of nightmares after in the implementation phase if we go from the theory of change to the roadmap. So that is one key idea that I wanted to convey. The second one is much more simpler than this one, and is the following. And it sounds a little bit revolutionary, I believe, at this stage, but it should be completely normal, and I hope that in the near future it will. Let's not be afraid of making mistakes. I mean, we will make them. We will make them. There is no doubt we will. The problem is that if we don't put a proper monitoring system that allows us to see when we are on track and when we are off track, what we are missing, and to reorientate the intervention, if we don't do that, what happens is that we just keep going for 2 or 3 years, and then 3 years later we try to justify whatever happened, and we try to say that it was a complete success, and then a couple of things were missing, but it's normal because of this and that excuse. And please don't misunderstand me. I believe that's also the case. I mean, more often than not, we tend to do quite good projects to some extent, and of course there are reasons for some deviation. But it would be much better for us if we were able to identify those deviations during the process of the project and not at the end. I mean, everything happens. Prices of goods change, hurricanes hit, change of governments happen. We have staff that have to leave, or worse things that happen to them. So, of course, that during the life of a program, a project, the implementation of a public policy, every kind of unforeseen events happen, and most often we try to have them identified, and we have to have mitigation measures for them, right? But still, I mean, there is unforeseen things that will happen, from rise of prices of commodities to exchange rate to whatever you want. You can just name it. So let's not be afraid of identifying, of monitoring constantly, identifying challenges that have taken us by surprise, of making mistakes, of readjusting some of the data analytics. We were maybe missing data and we couldn't see things. Maybe we did put some indicators in the dashboard that are not moving because something is not working properly, or because those were not the indicators that we had to consider. Maybe we thought that we had been participatory enough in the theory of change process, and we find out that some people have not been included, and then there is lack of ownership. Well, let's correct that on the way. And lack of ownership is one of the most challenging things to correct, so let's try to solve that at the beginning, but if we have to correct it on the way, let's do it. So, these were some of the ideas I wanted to share for this last session. I don't know if there are questions, if there is any comments that you would like to share. There is no need to take the entire hour. We are 20 minutes before schedule, so if there are no comments or questions or whatsoever, we could also close it here, but I wouldn't like to do it if there are any doubts that have to be solved or any comments that you would like to share with the rest of your colleagues. So let me close my mic for the coming 3 minutes, and if there is any question in these coming 3 minutes, if you want the mic, please ask for it and we will open your mics. If in the coming 3 minutes there is no comment or question or whatever, we will leave it here. Thank you very much. So I have this question from Betty Jan, and I'm gonna go about it, and I see that many of you are already thinking that we can stop it here. So let me answer this question and we will finish here. How to integrate or train governments in combo strategies? Well, actually, government counterparts have been invited to these trainings, and many of them are participating. So, if you would like to see who from your government, from your respective countries participating, please write to the team, to Andrea or Ivan, or I think Andrea and Deborah should be able to answer to that. And we can see who from your respective countries, from the governments, are participating in the trainings. But we have already government officials participating. In some cases, many. I mean, in the pop risk, just from Bolivia, we had 8 people from UDAPE, which is the statistics unit of the government of planning, or the planning institute in the government. In the case of this combos training, I think that we have about 30 people from the government of Dominican Republic. So we have made this on purpose open for government officials. If further trainings are needed, we can also host like a couple of days workshop in country. We did something similar in Haiti when I was there some weeks ago, and we are gonna continue with that idea. So if some countries would like to have some in-country 2 days workshop or something like that, it's something that we are considering, and we are considering also doing a regional workshop as we did in Bolivia and Guatemala in 2016. So this has to be yet defined, but it's more likely that we will be doing it. So yeah, I think this answers that question. Let me then close by saying that it was for me an absolute privilege to be here sharing this with you. It's innovative. There are challenges to it. We are trying it. No one has completely finalized a combo. We are in the process of going through it. We are in the process now of the implementation phase, which is going to be a challenge, and we are finalizing in some cases the roadmaps or the theory of change. So we will see how it evolves. The idea of this training as well is, as we have countries that want to apply the common methodologies, we may need in some cases to have some of you support the process. So hopefully you will have finalized the combos very well, and we will be able to rely on you. We believe that this is a growing effort, and some countries will ask for the support of other countries, and we think that's the best way to go. It is a very practical South-South cooperation door, and of course, when one country is supporting to another, considering that their civil servants are hired to work in the respective countries and not in another country, there is going to be need for bridging that support, and some of you may also come very pertinent there in that kind of line of work. So let me just say again that it was a privilege, that I hope you found it useful for us. We have learned a lot from your questions, from your participation, from your very practical examples. And if you identify some countries that want, or your respective countries wants to go through a combo and they don't feel quite comfortable, please let us know. We will be asking you who of you have already identified or are working in combo. So let us know. We are currently supporting those countries that have started, that have doubts, that need some support and some orientation. So we will be more than glad to accompany those efforts. Let me stop it here. Have a wonderful end of the day and have a wonderful end of the week. And please finalize your exercises so that we know that we can count on you and that you have finalized the entire training. Thank you very much. Goodbye.